Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Cronin. I'm the librarian at NECB, and the topic for this webinar is company and industry research, and specifically company and industry research using library databases. What I'm going to do in the first couple of minutes before delving into specific databases that I think will be of help to you is to talk to you about company and industry research in general. I think the first question, really, or one of the first questions that you need to ask yourself when you're researching a company is, what type of company is this? Whether it's a publicly held company or it's a privately held company, whether it's a subsidiary or a partnership or it's a nonprofit, knowing what type of company it is going to play a big part in determining the amount of information that you can find on that company. Publicly held corporations are corporations which issue stock to the public. Sometimes they're called publicly traded corporations. Because they issue stock to the public, they are required to register with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And because they are registered with the SEC, they're then required to make filings. There are a number of filings which are useful for doing research on publicly held. There are 10Ks, there are 10Qs, there are proxies, there are prospectuses. There are actually over 800 different types of SEC filings that a publicly held corporation can file with the SEC. But what you as a researcher are going to be mostly concerned with are these documents. A 10K comes out annually, just like with an annual report, loaded with information. And a 10K and its various exhibits can run hundreds of pages. There's usually a great deal of data and written information about a company in the 10K. 10Qs are shorter documents. They are issued quarterly, talking about the most recent quarterly activity for that company. Proxies are issued annually before an annual meeting. Really good for giving information about executive compensation information and corporate governance, members of the board of directors, for example. A prospectus is issued when a company is going to issue some new stock or a bond. Really very good as far as providing some more background information about a company. You may not even be aware that you're using the information that's contained in these filings, because a lot of the data that comes from these filings shows up in different databases that we have, like Mergent and IBIS World and Business Insights Essentials, databases that I'll show you in a little while. But just be aware that if the company that you're doing research on is publicly held, you're going to be able to find a lot of information on it. Also, a publicly held corporation is most likely going to be tracked by brokerage houses, because they're going to be producing analyst reports. But there again, you get more information on that company. Privately held corporations, much less information. If you did a search on a company like Bechtel, a huge multi-billion-dollar engineering corporation based in California, you will not find 10Qs, 10Ks, proxies, prospectuses, or any SEC filing. You will have to resign yourself to the fact that you're probably going to get a lot less information about that company because it's privately held. It's not obligated to publish its financial information. When I'm researching a privately held company, the website is for that company can be useful sometimes. Sometimes they may divulge information that they're not required to. The other way is a literature search, that is looking for articles. Hopefully there'll be an article in some industry publication for engineering, in the case of Bechtel, that may disclose some more information about them that they haven't published on their website. There may be some information written by somebody who follows that company or follows the industry in Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. You get some more information. But as far as getting detailed financial information like an income statement, balance sheet, I would set the bar, your expectations, much lower than if you were researching a publicly held corporation like Target or Bank of America, large publicly held companies. Another Partnerships and sole proprietorships, again, same thing. It's you're not going to be able to get the same amount of information available on these types of organizations, because they're not required to publish that information. Nonprofits, the nonprofit sector is a large and growing sector of the U.S. economy. I believe it represents about 5% of U.S. GDP today. It has about 1.4 million nonprofits are registered in the United States. The primary source of information on researching a nonprofit, because you may very well find yourself in a situation like that some days. One is check the website for that nonprofit. Some are really quite forthcoming as far as disclosing their financials. I was looking at one the other day for Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. They published their annual report with a fair amount of information in the financial statement. But privately held nonprofits rather are not held to the same standard as a publicly held corporation. The best document for financial information about a nonprofit is a 990. It's a form which is published, which is required by the Internal Revenue Service. Nonprofits that are religious organizations or with revenue of below 50,000 are exempt. They don't have to file a 990, even though some of them do. The website that I would recommend that you go to, which has both a free and a paid version. The free version is perfectly fine. Is something called GuideStar. You just go to www.guidestar.org, and there just register for free, and you can do a search in there for the most recent 990 for a great many nonprofit organizations. And again, just to set your expectations, while you will find some financial information in there, revenue, for example, and some of their expense information and compensation information for the people who run it, it will not be as detailed as a large publicly held corporation. So these are the different types of organizations that you would most likely be doing research on. And as I say, it's one of the very first questions that you want to ask, that I ask whenever I'm researching a company, is what am I looking at? What sort of company is this? Because it's going to play a big part in the type of information that you're going to find on that company. So let me go to the library. When you go to excuse me, a class, any class, this is the information literacy course, you'll see over on the left-hand navigation bar a link, NECB eLibrary. When you click on that, it brings you into the library. This is the home page of the library. There's another webinar that I give, which is an introduction to the library, which I would recommend that you watch either before this or afterwards. It'll give you more of a basic background, because that's not the purpose of this webinar. This is a little more advanced. But this is the library. This is the home page. And what I want to do with you in the next few minutes is talk to you about some of the leading databases that I think would be useful for doing research on companies and industries. And the first database that I want to show you is a database called IBISWorld. If you click on here, these are the most heavily used databases, or some of the most heavily used databases right here on the home page. Click on IBISWorld. Great database, tracks over 730 industries. This is a database which is used by every major business school in the United States. So whether you're at Harvard Business School or Stanford or Chicago, Columbia, the students over there are using the exact same database that you're using here at NECB. You can do a search over this database with a keyword search. I use the word credit cards as an example oftentimes. Click on, hit enter. So it's going to bring up the reports which the database has decided are the ones that are most likely going to be of use to you. So credit card issuing, credit card processing. You can say more results and see other ones which are tagged with credit cards as a subject. But these are reports that you could use if you're researching these particular industries. And I'll show you an example of one of these reports in just a minute. So that's doing a keyword search. We can go back to home, and we could browse, which I prefer. Click on here. You'll see the NAICS. It stands for North American Industrial Classification System. The North American Industrial Classification System is a sort of a classification system of all industries, and you could, if you wanted to, go down here and you can browse. This is the NAICS number that corresponds, say, to hotels and motels. If you don't have to memorize these things. You could click on here and it'll give you a guide. You could just go to the title of the industry report, and that's well enough. These reports run about 30 to 60 pages in length. They're updated frequently. The data, and they're really a great source for data, is drawn from industry and government resources. If we go down here, they're broken into large, broad categories like accommodation and food services, agriculture, construction, education, finance, healthcare, manufacturing, professional scientific, real estate, retail trade. We could go into hardware stores. And just to give you an example of what you'll find, every single one is formatted the exact same way, so you're not relearning how they decide to present the information. You could, if you wanted to, click on the little PDF here, and it'll put the whole report into a PDF, which you can then save or print out if you find that easier to access the information. Or you could look at it online, and there are these various tabs. And let me just go through this very quickly so you get a sense of what sort of information you'll find in these reports. So hardware stores. So this is, again, supply chain, major players, main activities, industry jargon, which is always important when you're researching an industry, glossary, industry at a glance. You've got true, looks like true values, got the market share, which is always very important when you're analyzing an industry, what the market share of the major players is. This data is very current, so you got data on the size of the industry, industry performance, current performance. You'll see at times these little green icons. Click on that. You can export the data from this table into Excel. Industry outlook. And again, this is very current, so you're dealing with current information as far as IBIS World. And by the way, I use Google all the time when I do research. Every business librarian I know uses Google. But there are advantages and disadvantages of using Google. One is the quality of information. It varies considerably. Sometimes it's great information, sometimes it's garbage, and you need to be able to have the critical judgment to be able to make determination whether it's good or bad and how you're going to use it. Also, that some of the very best information is expensive. It's produced by publishers and database vendors, and they're not going to give it away for free. One of which are these IBIS World reports that I'm showing you. You can do Google searches. I mean, it may possibly be able to find one that's been posted illegally, but this is not a resource that is available for free. You need to do it through the library, and it's very costly. Products and markets. It's very costly if you were to do this on your own out on the market. Products and markets. So you've got demand determinants, major markets, international trade, geographic locations, competitive landscape. So you've got concentration, cost benchmarks, basis of competition, barriers to entry. All of these are things to consider when you're researching an industry. Major companies. So you've got a brief profile on all the major players, such as True Value. And how helpful would this be if you were doing research on the Ace Hardware Corporation and you wanted to understand not just Ace Hardware, but the industry in which it operates? And you can see all the major players here and the market share. So this really complements some of the databases I'll show you in a minute how to research a company. So operating conditions, regulation, and lastly, key statistics. And again, as I said earlier, you see these little green icons on occasion. Just clicking on that will export all the data from all these different tables. Okay, so that's IBIS World. And let me close out of that. And let me show you another database which is called Plunkett Research. This is a database which is found in many leading business libraries. And the way this database, which I think is well designed, quite intuitive, is arranged around what they call research centers. And there are a little over 30 of them. And you can find those here in the center part of the page. If you click on this little down arrow, you'll see all the different industries. And you could, if you wanted to, you could choose, I'm going to use biotech, which I use on occasion just as a demonstration. Every research center is designed the exact same way, so you don't have to relearn how to gather the information on if you switch industries. It's arranged by these different links: market research and trends, companies, executives, industry associations, statistics, build a report. Let's start over here. This is the basic introductory information about biotechnology. And if you go here, this is all very current. It's updated quite frequently. So this is the introductory information about where the biotech industry is today. And you could, if you wanted to, click the PDF and it'll just download all of this text as a PDF. Click this little down arrow here. We're looking at the state of biotech. These are all the other parts of biotech industry that you may want to look up and read, so to get more detailed information about what's going on in biotech. And as I say, all this is updated quite frequently. So that's market research and trends. Let's say you want to gather some data. So in statistics here, you'll see data about the industry. R&D, of course, is a big part of bio, so you've got a lot of data on the drug pipelines. Here's the exports, imports, R&D, pharmaceutical R&D, FDA approvals, and regardless of what page you're on, you can download as a PDF, or you also have the option of, because it's data, to export it to Excel. Companies and executives, click on here. Here is a tool which I know sometimes students use this for job searches, but you can do a screening in here, and you can do a screening by a number of different criteria: what exchange it's traded on, by its NAICS code. We talked about NAICS codes a couple minutes ago. Where the headquarters is located, by state, country, metropolitan area, screened by sales or employees, screened by executives, and or types of companies. Remember we talked earlier about privately held companies and publicly companies or subsidiaries. You can screen by particular type of company. Just to give you a quick idea of how this works, you could, if you wanted to, say you're looking for, since we're in biotech, we're going to look for biotech companies in Massachusetts. I'm going to say revenues of more than $1 billion, so this is in millions here. I'm going to say more than 1,000 employees. I'm going to not limit by type of company. I could, if of course I've said, well, I just want public companies, not privately held. Click on search, and for the search results, I will get 13. And there are 13 companies here in Massachusetts, $1 billion more in revenues, and employ more than 1,000 people. If I clicked on one of them, let's say, for example, you say subsidiary, private. Let's say Parexel here. And here we've got introductory information about the company, their ticker, when they were established, number of employees. These are where they fit in industry rankings, if you're ranking it by revenue or market cap, income, any way you want to sort it. We've got all the individuals who are running it with links to biographical information about those people. Down here you've got financial information, and this is what you start off with, but you can click down any one of these links here and drill down to get more information. You can get more financial details. Here they're pulling it from the income statement, but compared to industry average, which is very good for doing some comparable company analysis. You can build a custom table. You can compare this particular company to other biotech companies, and you can then export it. And down here, and lastly, there's one other thing I want to show you, this build a report feature. The build a report feature is an interesting feature that this database provides. It allows you to be able to build a report from different parts of the database that you choose, and in the end it'll be a nice PDF document. So you could, for example, say, well, gee, I want something in which not all of these things about the industry trends clear it. You could say, but I want something, a state of the biotech today, and I want to include stem cells and something with vaccines. I get down here, I'm going to pull out and put some data in this report. I'm going to here, and let's say prescription drug expenditures. I can add in some companies, so I could pick in Biogen or a couple of other biotech companies and put in key select financial information, the revenue or whatever. Throw in some industry associations, and also down the end, click View Report, and it'll create a PDF report of all these little parts that you chose. So that's a very interesting feature that Plunkett offers. So let me move forward here, because there's several other databases that I want to show you. Another one's called Mergent, and this is one of the best databases that we offer, which provides financial information on, as you see, thousands of companies, both public and private. So click on Mergent. And once we go into the Mergent database, this is the home page. And what we can do is we can do a search, and let's do a search on Merck, the large pharmaceutical company based in New Jersey. And it's right there. There happens to be a German one also, but this is the one that I want. Click on that. And what I'm brought to is this opening page. Again, every company that you do a search on in here is always going to have this opening page and provide the sort of basic information about the company. So you have things like, what sector they're in, when they founded, their basic information about revenue, net income, employees. But go down the page here. I'm going to show you some of these tabs, and this is only just the tip of the iceberg as far as the amount of information on a company that you can find in this database. So business summary, pricing summary and their stock price, key financial information, some information about their stock, key executives. But it's through these tabs you can start getting a lot more information. So that was the company details. Let's go into executives. And executives here you have, and this is pulled from SEC filings for the most part. You can get all the executives, and if you were to click on any one of these links, it's going to give you more biographical information about the individual. We can go into ownership. Ownership is again pulled from SEC filings. One of the things about the advantages of a database like this is it takes all that information that's buried in hundreds of pages of documents with the SEC and extracts it and puts it into a database so you can work with it. So that's one of the values of working with a database like this. But this is so you got ownership. So these are mostly institutional owners. You can see here mutual fund companies and other types of investment management companies. Company financials in here. You can get information. You can get the data from their income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. What this is defaulting to is you can see annuals from the balance sheet for 5 years, but you can change that if you want. You can say, gee, I want quarterly information, and I also want it from the income statement, and I don't want it 5 years. I actually want to go back to 15 years. And so, and you have the option of changing it to, in this case, it's reported currency, which is US dollars, but you can convert it to any one of these other currencies. You could, as reported scale, you can change it whether you want it to thousands and millions. We'll leave it that way. And we're going to go refresh. And now what's going to be displayed is quarterly income statement data. You can go down here. And what you can do then, if you wanted, you could just export the whole thing to Excel, and then you can work with it. Now that was that's pulling it from the financial statement. You could, if you wanted to, look at ratios, which is great as far as being able to do some sort of analysis. So you've got 15 years of quarterly ratios here. A lot of data, but a lot of analysis which is done for you by calculating all these ratios. Equity pricing, you can get stock price data in here also. So if we go to equity pricing, it's defaulting just to looks like the daily stock price for the last 3 years. But we can change that if we want. We can say, well, gee, I don't want 3 years, I want 30 years. So you can get 30 years of daily stock price data in here, which is redisplaying. You could, if you wanted, not just settle for that, but you could also say that you want to change it and you want to index it to something. You could say, I want to index it to maybe the S&P 500. That would make it a little more meaningful, so you can compare it against a major index. I'm going to draw the chart, and so we've got I'm going to rebase it to so we've got now the S&P 500 and Merck, and I've rebased it to 0. But I could also if I wanted to change this and throw in one or several other companies on the stock price chart that are competitors of Merck. So it's not only comparing Merck with a major index, but also with other major pharmaceutical companies. So there's a number of options available to you. That's an equity pricing. In here, reports, we have SEC filings in here if you want to go to the filings themselves. Here, also again, SEC filings in here. Go back over to here. There are in here these industry reports, which also I think are very helpful if you want to do want to find some written analysis about the industry which Merck is operating in. So click on industry reports, and now Merck is in. We can say, let's change this date so it goes a little back further, and now Merck is in more than just pharmaceuticals. It's also in chemicals and biotechnology. So this is displaying are the reports that one would most likely use for researching Merck. So we could, let's say, I want to look at the biotechnology report for North America. Click on this here, and these are updated quite frequently. And so you've got the industry report for biotechnology. And these are updated quite frequently. So it's very useful. If I went back over to here, you'll see there are you could change it over to another industry if you want. So lastly, let me leave you with Mergent at this point, and because I'm going to show you several other databases, and I don't want to run out of time. But that's Mergent, and Mergent's particularly good, as I say, getting financial information, getting ratios, getting stock price data, and also those industry reports are very helpful. Another database which I think is very good for, especially with market research, is ProQuest. Go into ProQuest Central here, And in here, this is many times students go to the ProQuest Central database primarily to look for articles, but what they may not be aware of is there's also really great research reports. And if you go into Browse in here, you will see over here, Industry and Market Research. Click on here, and you'll see a number of different published reports. One of these Business Monitor, First Research, Just Series, and Snapshot. And what I want to show you is I want to show you First Research. If you click on here, and in this database there are a rather large number of industries in here. You can see down here banking industry, bottled water, and you can see the number of reports that correspond to each one. So definitely I would explore this if you're doing some research on an industry, but just to give you an idea of what you can find. Let's go up here and let's say the airline industry. Click on this. And so you've got 29 documents that deal with the airline industry. And what we can do is, and you can see they come out quarterly, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to change this so it's most recent first. Excuse me. And so here, airline industry from First Research, click on this. And you've got a 17-page report on the airline industry. The first, I should say, this particular resource, First Research, really is a U.S. focus. So if you were researching a company in Western Europe, then this is a database that you probably would not want to use. This is more if it's a U.S. industry. But again, current information about the U.S. industry, and they come out quarterly. So that's the First Research reports. And let me show you, I'm just back browsing here. Another one I want to show you is the Just Series report. So go in here, and so we were in here. I'm going to go in here. So Just Series, what you could do here is, if you want, you could browse by industry, by subject, by title. What we could do, and there's SWOT reports in here as well, but say browse by industry. And in here we could say the automobile industry. You can see all the different aspects of it, but what we can do is just say view documents. And in here there were nearly 3,800 reports and articles from industry publications on the automotive industry. And what you could do if you wanted to, you can browse this. However, you could also narrow it down by default by date, or you could run a keyword search in here if you wanted to. You could search within, and you could say I'm doing some research on say Alfa Romeo. Let's see if this. Oh gosh, well let's try let's try search within, let's try Ford. Okay, so we can cut it down. It cuts it to 1700, but we could have been a little more specific, and just running a keyword search, and this will narrow it down. But you're searching at least among reports that deal with the automotive industry. Let me show you another database here. Let's just go back browse. And I want to go into Business Monitor. Now, Business Monitor is a database which is really more for international. It's not just U.S. So if we went to Business Monitor International, you could go into, say, banking industry, and you could see there's over 1,300 reports on the banking industry. We could go down here, and you could say, gee, I'm looking for France, commercial banking report. So there are 25 documents that deal with commercial banking. We're going to most recent first, and you can see here, so this is the French, for France commercial banking report, second quarter of 2016. Click on this, and here you've got a 73-page report on the French commercial banking market, which you can download and read or print. Okay, so so BMI is more for non-US. Another let me just go back. There's one other place I want to show you in the ProQuest Central Database, which is good for company industry research, and that is in here. You've got EIU. I'm actually sorry, that's country reports. This is for doing research on countries. But company reports is Hoover's. Go in here. Great database for getting information on companies. Once this loads, we can do a search on, let's say, CVS. And let's say, I think it's CVS Health Corporation. And here you've got information on the company. If you wanted to, you can link to full text, which brings up the report. It gives you, there's a fact sheet, history, products, subsidiaries. There are numerous assignments at NECB where you'll be analyzing a company and you'll be looking for this type of information. And this is a really very good source. Hoover's, as far as pulling together information on a company, as far as their history and their products, subsidiaries, and the people who run the company, and as well as the financial information. So Hoover's is another source that you can try. Let me also move on here in the interests of time, and let me talk to you about another database which is called Business Insights Essentials. Again, right, it's on the home page. Click on here. This is also found at many business schools. A very user-friendly database, I think. You could search by company, by industries. We could, if we want to say do a search on a company, we could say Bank of America. Just give you an idea of the sort of information you can find in here on Bank of America. You'll find as you go from database to database, sometimes the information that you're looking for, say, a financial statement or the biographical information about the major about the people who are running the company, you can find it in a number of different databases. Some databases have certain strengths, like Mergent that I showed you a little while ago is a lot more data than any other database that we have. I mean, 30 years of daily stock price data, for example, or quarterly data, quarterly ratios for 16 years. You won't find that in the other databases. One thing that stands out in this database are the company histories. Now, Bank of America is here. There's a resource called International Directory of Company Histories, which has been around for I think at least 40 years, and you can still find it in print in many leading business libraries, and it runs well over 100 volumes. An excellent source. This International Directory of Company History is the entire full text of this important business reference source is available in this database, and these are really terrific histories, and there's a very large number of them in here. Click on here and you can get the entry, the full text entry for the history of the Bank of America. And these are well written, well researched. You can see the long list of citations used by the author or authors of this particular entry. So this is a really good place to go if you want to do research on the history of a company. Also, one thing in here, which let me see if there's a SWOT report. Actually, let me go back to here and try again. Let's see, company, and let me try Merck. See if I want to show you. This database also has SWOT reports, which I'll show you in just a SWOT reports. These are really very useful tools, these SWOT reports, for strategy for a company. It deals with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if you were to go in here, you would see the SWOT report for Merck. And there are SWOT reports for many companies in here, well over 1,000. So this database is another strength of it. The Business Insights Essential database is our SWOT reports aside from history. Another place to go. That's Business Insights Essentials. Another place to go for SWOT reports that I just want to point out to you is called EBSCO Business Source Complete. This is a great database for other types of research other than just researching a company. You can do research on a wide range of business topics. But in here, if you go to company profiles, there are reports. I just typed in Merck. Let me try Merck again here. Browse. They have these reports for a very large number of companies called market line reports. Click on this. They run about 20 to 40 pages, and you'll see in here sometimes they're more than 40 pages, but down here the list of with links, the history, key employees. Again, so much the same information that you can find in some of the other sources. There are assignments, I know, at NECB where over a number of weeks you're expected to research a company and look for the sort of information that's provided in these reports. So this report may provide you with a substantial amount of information you need. If you were looking for a SWOT report, click on SWOT analysis. There's a SWOT report for Merck. So this is another place you can get a SWOT report. It's a great way as far as analyzing a company. So let's click out of that. I also want to show you LexisNexis very quickly. This is a database which you can do looking for newspaper stories, great for legal research. They have legal material on the federal and state level and regulatory law. But this being a company industry webinar, let's focus on that. Go over to here, and you can go down to this dossier, company executive and industry, and over here you could, if you wanted to, type in the name of a company. It could be, say, Microsoft. And you could, I know I'm researching a company, but I could also research an industry or a particular executive. Click on this here, and it is this one that I want. And in here, the type of information you can see over on the left-hand side. Current news, executives, company hierarchy, brands, competitors. You got financial information, SEC filings, analyst reports. So this is another great place to go for information on a particular company, or also you could research an industry. So that's LexisNexis. And there's one other resource that I want to show you, which I think I hope you will like. And it's not here on the home page. You go to Databases A to Z, and it's over here called JP Morgan Research. This is a database that we added not too long ago. Click on that. And what this is contains our analyst reports from JP Morgan. Thousands and thousands of analyst reports. You can see it covers over 3,000 global companies in their industries, and coverage goes back to 2011. There's only a 7-day embargo with this. That is, providing the report wasn't published or released within the last 7 days, it's yours. I would advise, from my experience using this database, to avoid doing a search in here. In this basic search, if you type in keywords like credit cards, you're going to get thousands of search results, because what you're doing is you're searching this database and saying bring back every single report in which these words appear. If you type, let's say you do some research on Target, the big retailer, you type in the word Target here, it's going to think of how many ways in which the word Target can appear in an article. It could be the target of an acquisition. It has nothing to do with the target as the retailer. So what I would recommend you do is do an advanced search, because with an advanced search you have the ability to do a little more precise searching. Because over here, click down here and go to issue or company. And here, type in Target. So what you're going to do now is it's going to retrieve only those reports that deal with Target. Run the search. And I could, if I wanted to, I could limit it by date. Say, gee, I went with the last year. I didn't do that. I just want to show you this. But these are all, if you click on the PDF, it brings up the full text of the analyst report from JP Morgan. And again, what I mentioned a few minutes ago about doing Google searches. It would be wrong of me to say don't do Google searches. I use it all the time, and every business librarian I know does. But understand that when you do research via a Google search, some of the best information is not going to be given away for free by publishers, and they make their money by selling it to libraries and to consulting firms and all sorts of companies that license this content. So you will most likely not find JP Morgan analyst reports out on the web like this, except through a licensed database. So just to review, close out of this. This is the library homepage. The most important resource that I think we offer, aside from the ones that I showed you tonight, is here. When you go into a traditional on-ground college library, you'll see all sorts of resources, books and tables and books and journals and newspapers and computers. You will always see a reference desk in a centered place of the library staff with professional librarians who are there to help you with your research. All or most of you work full time, you have full lives. If you are struggling with trying to identify where to get the information you need, what database to use, what journal to use, how to get started, problems with APA, we are here for you. We're here for 24/7. We offer two forms of reference. We have a live chat session here 24/7. You click on that, it'll bring you in touch with a librarian. They will to a live chat session, be able to help you with your reference, direct you to a database, show you how to use it, and at the end you'll get a transcript of that conversation emailed to you. The other form of reference we offer is me, and if you click on here, there's a form that'll come up. You fill it out, it goes to me. I will get back to you very soon. I don't know about 3 o'clock in the morning, but I do get back very soon. And in answering your question, I can do it by email, I can do it by phone, I can do a webinar, whatever works best for you. We're here for you, so please don't suffer in silence. This is the most important resource right here at the library, and I strongly encourage you to avail yourself of it. So thank you very much for joining me, and good luck with your research. Take care.